Not again.
Oh, and it's just Jason from Terror Transmission.
Thank goodness. I go through that all the
Oh my goodness. Not a Martian. Well, not right now anyway. I am sitting next to the very beautiful and very wonderful Ann Robinson. And thank you so much for spending a couple minutes with the Terror Transmission.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. And look at this lady. Yes. A darling. A darling.
Oh, you're precious.
So, Ann, I wanted to ask you about your hairpiece from the movie.
Oh, I had a fake hair. I had fake bangs and a fake, page boy, because my hair looked like this. This picture right here is what I looked like under the wig. So it was a poodle cut. It was far too red, far too glamorous, far too sophisticated, and they wanted somebody that looked very plain.
Very small town. And yet you had a master's degree in the film in library science?
In whatever that is. I have not the foggiest idea what library science is.
Neither do I.
No.
You have a master's degree in the film, and yet you were serving coffee and donuts to the military.
Well, I know. I had a Red Cross band on. Oh, I'm very active in my small community.
Oh, good for you.
We did in 1953.
We championed that.
Absolutely.
Championed that.
Women, knew what their role was. That was.
Coffee and donuts.
I know.
Your scream is earth-shattering and wonderful. One of the most heartfelt screams, I think, in any of the 50s sci-fi movies that were out there. Did you work on that?
No. Spielberg said it was second to Fay Wray and King Kong.
Well, Faye started it, so you have to give her some type of,
Second to Fay Wray, and I thought that was very complimentary.
I would agree.
He was very complimentary to me.
I would agree that...
I just opened my mouth and out it came.
And so out it came.
The first time they weren't expecting me. They had no idea that I could scream, that loudly and that long. And so the sound man wasn't prepared. So it was quite a surprise.
So he had to withdraw the mic.
I mean, his ears were, smoke was coming out. So they reset the dials or whatever they did, and I gave a second scream, and that's what you see in the movies, the second one.
How was George Pal to work with?
Oh, what a love. I grew up with the Puppetoons. You just don't meet people like that anymore. There aren't any. He was just a humble, quiet, lovely gentleman, and everybody adored him. And I don't know why so many people were mean to him and took advantage of him when he was such a classy person, just a lovely man who did harm to no one.
That's the story of George Pal, is that he was this amazing guy who had a room, an office that he used to have drawings, and he used to have sketch ideas for his special effects. Yes. And people would come in regularly into his studio and take things.
Well, finally he wised up and he wouldn't let anyone see anything. But before he left Paramount, he allowed my son Stefan in. I think he was going to shoot The Hobbit, and he was going to do a continuation of When Worlds Collide, and he showed him all the storyboards. And of course, no one else was allowed to see them, but we're not going to run out and steal anything. Mm-hmm. But it was such a privilege that he took us into his confidence, just so gentle and loving. I mean, there was someone like Forrest J. Ackerman also was a gentle, loving man. Did harm to no one, and yet everyone would walk into the Acker mansion and steal things from him. Dreadful.
It is dreadful.
I suppose if they asked, he probably would have given them to him.
Well, that's the kind of gentleman that he was.
Exactly.
He was a gentleman. Gentleman.
I know, gentleman, absolutely. That's why I brought him with me. I brought George Pal and...
Oh, look at that.
Ackerman. I knew that he's probably responsible for my being here, because he kept telling, Ron and Ursula that they wanted that I would be a fine, a fun, a guest. And finally, I met someone at his memorial at the Egyptian Theater, and they said, haven't you ever been to Monster Bash? And I said, no one's ever invited me. And so here I am. They got the hint finally after all this time, and I'm thrilled to death to be here.
Here she is, and a little clap for that.
Best time of my life.
That's excellent.
It's lovely.
How does it feel all these years later to have the adoration of the fans and to be able to experience it firsthand?
It's overwhelming. I've never met so many kind, loving people that they just give themselves, and they're so enthusiastic about the movie. I'm so glad that I'm here to represent it because the movie's so important.
I agree.
It really so, and I'm sort of the last one around to talk about it, and I'm very grateful that I am.
We are so thankful that we were able to talk to Ann Robinson. Now I have to ask one more question. War of the Worlds was remade by Steven Spielberg.
It wasn't remade.
Okay. The name was remade.
The name, I know.
The interpretation was more taken from the very stark and very dark novelization by H.G. Wells.
That's right.
When you watched the Spielberg remake, what was your interpretation of it? Like when you were watching it, how did you experience it? How was it for you to experience it as a viewer, as an audience member?
Well, it was a totally different movie. It was a different experience. The only thing that was similar is the quotation from the beginning and the end, which comes a little more accurately from the book than ours did. And this movie, George Pal's version, was absolutely Spielberg's favorite. He loved the movie, and he wanted desperately to do it someday, but he didn't want to mess with it. He didn't want to. What can you do to this movie? You can't change it. So many people try to change, the same movie, do it over and over again, the same thing, and you can't match the beginning, the first one. So
And why try?
No, and why try? It's almost like, Dear Jimmy Hunt's movie. I mean, they keep doing Invaders from Mars, and why? Why don't they just leave it alone? The first one was the best.
You can't ever match the perfection of the first time around. So there's a lot of remakes around these days too.
That's
and
right. This one is not a remake. It's taken from the book. He put a lot of our things in there as sweet reminders to let everybody know how much he loved it. I mean, there's a sign over Tom Cruise's head, a street sign when the whole place is falling apart, and it has Van Buren Street. Well, that was my
Shelley Van Buren. Right?
Well, that was my name. Sylvia Van Buren in the movie.
It was Sylvia. I'm sorry. Sylvia. You also were Sylvia and Van Buren on the late '80s. There was a television War of the Worlds, and you kind of you didn't same character name.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, that was lovely. I heard that they were going to do something at Paramount, and I said, how could they do something and not ask me? What's wrong with these people? So, what's wrong with them?
What's wrong with these?
Yes, I don't understand. And so it's just very much like Pioneer Records when they did the Laserdisc. Paramount sent the wrong picture to them. It was Barbara Rush on War of the Worlds, and I called up and I said, "What am I going to be on When Worlds Collide?" And they said, "Well, that's the only picture they sent us, and they don't even know who worked for them." Well, this, it shouldn't say that because they've been so kind to me, but it wasn't all Paramount's fault.
I've heard that from a couple different people that Paramount they had no idea.
No, but so I went out in the park and took a lot of pictures and mailed them over, overnight, got them to Paramount, and so they asked me to have luncheon. And when they found out that I was still walking on my own 2 feet, not using a walker, they hired me. And I went to Toronto and shot a few episodes and had a wonderful time. They were most gracious.
It's a very nice TV show, actually.
It wasn't bad at all. I had a good time doing it.
Yeah, very well done. Now I have to say, I watched this film, 1953's War of the Worlds, and it still really scares me.
It holds up beautifully.
It really does. When you went to the premiere in, I would assume 1953,
Premiere. They had just opened it.
But you did do something of a promotional tour for Paramount Studios.
I did when it opened in New York in August of '53. As a matter of fact, that picture that I had, of Times Square, that's opening day. I took that picture, standing on the square.
I heard the story. There's a sailor involved, isn't there?
No, there was an army fellow.
An army fellow.
I know. I told him to take my picture, and he wanted to know why I'd want to have a picture taken with that in the background. And I said, because I'm in the movie. Well, he didn't believe me, so I took him across the street, and I was trying to show him all the lobby cards and the one sheet and everything, and pictures of me. I don't know why I cared. It was just, what do you mean? But of course I'm in that movie. And so so I said, you want to see it? And because they told me I could go see it if I wanted to, and then I felt embarrassed because I'd picked up a soldier Oh Lord, And then I thought, oh God, what are they going to think of me? So I went up to the ticket taker at the door, and I said I was Ann Robinson, and Paramount said I could come see the movie if I wanted to, and they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. So I went over to the ticket taker, and I had showed my driver's license. I'm Ann Robinson. Can I go see the movie? Can you imagine? Oh, what a twit, And so they let me in. Well, I didn't look anything like her because I had long, bright red hair, and in the movie I had a plain brown wig on. Right. So I didn't look anything like the woman. So I sat up in the balcony, and I remember watching the movie, and the entire movie, the soldier was just staring at me.
Thinking,
just staring at me.
My date is on screen.
I know. And I've never forgotten him because he reminded me of Jimmy Lydon, that child actor.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's a great story. Now,
it is a crazy story.
All these years later, War of the Worlds means so much to so many people, and it means so much to myself and my co-host Matt, and to a lot of our fans. And I just want to say, Ann Robinson, you're still so beautiful and so gracious, and it's been so pleasant to spend a couple minutes with you.
Oh, my pleasure. So nice of you to ask me. I appreciate it very much when people are interested.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Terror transmission.